Hi there, and good evening to you. I'm Patrick Pock in Hong Kong. You're watching ViuTV News. Coming up on tonight's show. LegCo greenlights private Columbaria bill, but debate is overshadowed by row over gay rights. South China Sea challenge. US warship passes China-claimed reef in first challenge to Beijing claim to area since Trump took office. And a day after credit ratings downgrade in China, Hong Kong faces a similar fate. All right, first up, LegCo gave the green light to a private Columbaria bill today. Starting from June 30th, all private columbariums are banned from selling or renting out their niches without a license, although they have been given a 9-month grace period. 50 lawmakers voted in favor of the legislation, with one voting against. But another issue took center stage during today's discussion: gay rights. That's after the government revised the bill so that those who lived with the deceased for at least 2 years can claim their loved one's ashes. But in a clause that is bound to anger the city's LGBT community, same-sex couples will not enjoy the same rights. Some pro-establishment lawmakers argued that giving gay people the same right as heterosexuals might pave the way for approving same-sex marriage. Openly gay legislator Raymond Chan said, quote, "We are just asking for a little right." And more details have come to light about the fake concrete test reports in the Hong Kong-Zhuhai-Macau Bridge project. Government officials told press today that some irregularities related to the timing of the concrete tests were discovered last July. They believe someone deliberately adjusted the timing of the tests to make it seem like they were completed when they were meant to. Officials insist the controversy will not impact the project, stressing that initial tests prove the bridge is safe. The city's anti-graft body, the ICAC, arrested 21 people on Tuesday over the incident.
After the initial inspection of the concrete structure done over the last few days, there is no sign of distress. Based on the results of the initial inspection so far, it is safe enough to continue to carry out the remaining works in accordance with our plan and schedule. To allay public concern, additional measures will be implemented to conduct a professional health check for the Hong Kong sections of the Hong Kong, Zhuhai and Macau Bridge and the Tuen Mun Chet Cox link.
Secretary for Justice Rimsky-Yuen is urging the public to be less negative about plans for a joint immigration checkpoint at the Guangzhou-Shenzhen-Hong Kong Express rail link. Speaking at an event in London, the Justice Chief said both officials of the central and SAR governments had agreed to stick to the one country, two systems principle. Rimsky also took the opportunity to defend the city's rule of law, saying Hong Kong's judiciary has remained intact since the city returned to Chinese sovereignty 20 years ago. Okay, turn this news elsewhere now. The US Navy warship sailed within 12 nautical miles of an artificial island built by China in the South China Sea. This is the first challenge to Beijing's claim to the area since US President Donald Trump took office. US officials said USS Dewey traveled close to Mischief Reef in the Spratly Islands. It's said to be the first operation by a US Navy ship near one of China's reclaimed pieces of land since an international arbitration court in The Hague invalidated Beijing's claim to sovereignty over large swathes of the disputed waters. This so-called freedom of navigation operation, which is sure to anger Beijing, comes as Trump is seeking China's cooperation to rein in North Korea's nuclear and missile programs. And for more on that, let's turn to our Beijing correspondent, Dan Epstein.
Well, what we know is that the USS Dewey, the American Navy destroyer, traveled within 12 nautical miles of Mischief Reef. Now, this is one of China's many artificially built islands. And the Pentagon says that it operates in these waters on a daily basis, and it's merely acting within international law. This really highlights the crux of the issue, which is that America sees these as international waters. China sees these as its own waters. Now, under Obama, America was much more vocal about this position. But since Trump, as we know, this is the first such exercise. Now, some will say it's because Trump wants to work more closely with China in reining in North Korea's nuclear program. Now, if you ask experts about this particular exercise, they'll say it really depends on whether the radar was turned on the USS Dewey or whether they launched any helicopters or small boats. If not, this could simply be seen as innocent passage, which doesn't really challenge China's sovereignty. In fact, it could be interpreted as merely validating it.
Dan Epstein there in Beijing. Now, British police are scrambling to shut down a network around the suicide bomb of Monday's deadly attack in Manchester. 2 more arrests have now been made, taking the number of people detained in Britain and Libya's capital, Tripoli, to 8. Authorities believe the suicide bomber Salman Abedi built the explosive device that his accomplices could be ready to strike again. The latest arrests were made in Manchester. One woman who was taken into custody on Wednesday was released without charge.
I think it's very clear that this is a network that we are investigating, and as I've said, it continues at a pace. There's extensive investigations going on and activity taking place across Greater Manchester as we speak.
Well, in Libya, local authorities arrested Salman Abedi's father and brother. Officials say his brother was arrested on suspicion of links to Islamic State. They suspect he intended to carry out an attack in Tripoli. Speaking to Reuters moments before his arrest, Abedi's father, Ramadan Abedi, said he'd spoken to his son a few days ago. He insists his son was not behind the attack.
Salman doesn't belong to any organization. There was nothing hidden because I had open discussions with him about anything he wanted to understand.
Meantime, British authorities condemned US media over intelligence leaks related to the Manchester attack. The information includes details about Salman Abedi that were released by the press. Angered UK authorities are also referring to forensic pictures published by the New York Times, including parts of a bag Abedi used in the attack. According to the BBC, British Prime Minister Theresa May will confront the US President over the matter at a NATO summit in Brussels today. All right, coming up next, latest from the world of business.
Well, just hours after Moody's downgraded China's credit rating, the investor service firm lowered Hong Kong's local and foreign currency issuer ratings for the first time in nearly 30 years. Moody's citing Chinese credit trends having a negative impact on Hong Kong's credit profile due to close ties with the mainland, pointing to the existing Stock Connect schemes and the upcoming Bond Connect set to launch in July. But the rating for the city's outlook went from negative to stable, noting that the external risks are balanced. Well, the Hong Kong government didn't take lightly to the rating, criticizing the move, saying the city was well equipped to deal with any challenges. Financial Secretary Paul Chen said that Moody's has overlooked the city's sound economic fundamentals and its strong banking regulations and fiscal position. Today, the stock market did fairly well. The benchmark Hang Seng added 0.8% to end at 25,630 points as investors shrugged off the downgrade. Sentiment was boosted by hopes that the Chinese A shares will be included in the MSCI index next month. Here also, Lenovo jumped 3.7% after bouncing back to profit. Its PC shipment business fell at a slower rate than what the overall market has been experiencing. And British retailer Marks & Spencer posted a 10% decline in annual profit. While food may be one of its staple strong points, the company blames falling sales in clothes and homeware. But the results were expected as part of a restructuring program, says Steve Rowe, the CEO brought in to turn around the iconic brand. A weakened pound after Brexit, along with weak consumer spending and a late Easter this year also dented results. Well, China is growing in many respects. One consortium is betting on surging demand for condoms in a country where the topic of sex has become less taboo. $600 million was paid for the condom division of Ansell, the #2 producer in the world. The country is putting more emphasis on public health education, while foreign condom brands have more cachet in China after scandals involving cheap Chinese products. Well, Tiffany gems are losing their luster. Scales at the upscale jewelry chain fell for the 6th straight quarter, sending its shares sharply lower. Fred Katayama has that story.
Little luster at Tiffany. The upscale jeweler posted a surprise drop in quarterly comparable store sales. Sales at existing stores fell 4% in the Americas. That region accounts for nearly half of the company's revenue. And worldwide, comparable sales fell for the 6th straight quarter. Net sales rose, but that too fell shy of analyst estimates. The culprit, lower spending by foreign tourists and local customers. The dollar has risen sharply since the beginning of the year, hurting tourist purchasing power. Tiffany has also been struggling to lure younger shoppers who prefer cheaper, chic brands. Looking ahead, the retailer expects sales to rise by a low single-digit percentage for the year ending January. Moody's chief economist John Lonsky says retailers in general are in for tough times.
And I think the other problem retailers face today is, quite frankly, the shrinkage of the middle class as well as the aging of the population.
Tiffany shareholders saw a lot of their 10% gain this year erode in early trading Wednesday.
Well, those little blue Tiffany boxes I thought were really hard to resist for any girl, but apparently I feel like I'm getting old by the brand saying that they're having a hard time attracting the younger audience.
Well, if they're going to lower their prices, I'm sure a lot of people are going to be happy about that. Anyway, thanks very much indeed for that, Pam. Do stay with us. There's plenty more to come, including physiotherapist returns home after becoming 7th Hong Konger to conquer Mount Everest.